For a brief moment, the championship scramble looked like the kind of match World Wrestling Entertainment might keep around for years. It had all the ingredients of a lasting stipulation. It was chaotic, built around championship stakes, and different enough from the company's other multi-person matches to feel fresh. Titles could change hands multiple times in a single bout. Wrestlers entered at intervals. The clock mattered just as much as the action. And when the match ended, whoever held temporary champion status at that exact moment left with the title. It was frantic, unusual, and designed to create constant urgency. On paper, the concept had real promise. The championship scramble was introduced in 2008 as a 5-man title match with a 20-minute time limit. 2 competitors started, and the remaining 3 entered at timed intervals. Any pinfall or submission made the scorer the temporary champion until someone else scored the next fall. When the clock expired, the last temporary champion became the official champion. It was one of those ideas that sounded complicated at first, but once the match was underway, the appeal became clear. The title could change hands again at any moment. That was the most interesting part of the stipulation. Unlike a traditional multi-man championship match, the championship scramble was not about elimination or survival. It was about timing, momentum, and opportunism. A wrestler could spend most of the match struggling and still steal the title in the final seconds. A champion could control the action and still lose everything because of one sudden fall near the buzzer. The structure gave the company something wrestling is always looking for: controlled chaos. At Unforgiven in 2008, World Wrestling Entertainment gave the concept a serious stage. The event featured championship scramble matches for major world titles, which suggested the company saw real value in the idea. This was not a throwaway gimmick hidden in the middle of the card. For one night, it looked like a major experiment that could become part of the company's regular toolbox. But that is also what makes its disappearance so interesting. After that burst of attention, the championship scramble seemed to fade almost immediately. Part of the reason is that the match was exciting, but not as instantly understandable as some of the company's other stipulations. A ladder match is easy to explain. A steel cage match is easy to explain. The championship scramble required the audience to keep track of temporary title changes, staggered entrances, and a finish tied to the clock. That complexity made it unique, but it also made it harder to turn into a lasting staple. There was also a creative drawback. The championship scramble could produce thrilling finishes, but it did not always produce definitive ones. A wrestler did not have to dominate the match to leave as champion. He only had to hold temporary champion status when time expired. That unpredictability made the stipulation exciting, but it could also make a title win feel less decisive than the company usually prefers. The company did not discard the concept immediately. It appeared again in the ECW title picture, including at the Bash in 2009. But that limited follow-up says a great deal. Instead of becoming a recurring attraction across the company's biggest championships, the stipulation quickly moved into a much smaller role. That is usually a sign that a concept has value, but not enough value to become essential. And that may be the real reason the championship scramble vanished so quickly. It was clever, fast-moving, and memorable, but it never felt central to World Wrestling Entertainment's identity. It was not tied to one iconic performer. It did not have the unmistakable visual branding of a cage, a ladder, or a flaming ring. Its appeal came from rules, timing, and sudden reversals. That can make for a very good match, but it is harder to turn into a long-term symbol. So why did the championship scramble vanish almost instantly? The most responsible answer is this. It worked better as a novelty than as a permanent attraction. It brought creativity and suspense, but it was more complicated than most major gimmick matches, less visually iconic than the company's biggest stipulations, and not always ideal for producing the kind of clear championship endings the company tends to favor. It was not a humiliating failure. It simply was not strong enough to last. And in the end, that is the real story of the championship scramble. It disappeared because it was built for surprise, not permanence. For a brief moment, World Wrestling Entertainment presented it as something important. Then the company moved on, leaving behind a match type that was inventive, watchable, and memorable, but never quite important enough to survive.